And welcome to another episode. I have a fun little pen, just a diversion I want to try to fix up and see what I can do with. And this is a Parker Duofold, a toothbrush pattern. Probably from the 1930s-ish, I think, but this one's seen some better days. And I just want to have a little bit of fun, get this one up, and kind of do a little writing sample and see how it cleans up. As you can see, it's a little bit worse for wear. If I zoom in, it's got some usual wear. Looks like it has some schmutz kind of on the cap and body, and maybe even some corrosion. I'm hoping maybe it's just junk or buildup of something or another, but again, I'm just gonna have to wait to see what happens as it gets cleaned up. And I have two of these. This is the more beat up of the two, so it seems to maybe have a little more contrast between it before and after. And we'll see how it goes, and maybe I'll eventually get to the other one, but let's go ahead and get this one taken apart a little bit. And I will say that I've had a third one, and I feel that these, they just feel a little bit cheaper in terms of Parker. Like, it's not their top tier pen, and I've had some issues with these celluloids kind of cracking and being very fragile. So I kind of pre-did probably the scariest part for me, which was this, getting this section off. So it's going to come off easily, but I did use heat and soak it a little bit just to verify it'll come off. So here's the cap, and as we see, let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit. The cap band, silver of some kind, plated maybe. Some junk on it, so we'll see if that's plating loss or not. But we have this kind of duofold clip on it that we see on the duovacs and the striped duofold. So this is easy enough. We're just going to take off the cap jewel, which is this big fat plastic guy, and set him off to the side. We'll see how this cleans up eventually. Kind of mixed predictions about this one. I bet it will have probably a little corrosion, a little bit of pitting, but we'll see. And for this one, looks like the cap lip is intact, and it does feel rather thin. But there's that off to the side. Here was the scary part. So I did soak and did heat, and it is going to remove just like that. And we have a little kind of breather tube here that's stuck into this section. This is a button filler, and so we're going to see. That looks quite kind of rusty. I'll do some work on that. Ooh, that's tough. Do we get some stuff in there? Oh yeah. Dried out sack. Wonder if we can, because this does have the pressure bar that's got a little extra flange on it, so it's not going to tumble out. Ugh. Sounds like it's in there, but I may have to. Oh, straight back, got it. Ooh. There's some buildup and junk on that for sure. So one of my favorite things is doing the brass button, just because they do clean up so well. So that's going to be really nice for me, I think. Let's see if we can take out, see what we got. Is it salvageable? Again, we'll have to see. Looks like it's got the pieces intact. They want to be springy. But we'll see what cleans up, what doesn't, if that's just old ink and whatnot. It might be salvageable, but we'll see. And of course we have this, which, let me show you a tool, and I brought it up before, but let's go ahead and get my knockout block. And I have this shaper tool. It's kind of nice because it's got this nice heavy hammerable section, and then this long tube which you can slide over breather tubes get it down onto the feed. We're going to put it here into the knockout block, find a space for it, and I'm just going to knock it out. That was deep. And looks like it made a nice tight fit. Uh-oh. Twist it, slide it out. It's rather tight in there. That was just barely the right size. Okay. Slow. Whew, that was actually kind of scary. But we have that. We have the nib, which looks intact, no breaks. And we have the feed with its little breather tube intact. And that's kind of a new one on me. I'm not really used to a breather tube being in any of those Duofolds. So that's a little bit tight. I'm not going to pull it because I don't want to break it, but maybe it'll slide out when we start doing the soaking. But nib, feed, section, barrel, the pressure bar, compound I'll call it, cap with its little things. We have the button and the blind cap all right there. So I'm going to get those things soaking, and I'll start doing some polishing and bring it back when I think I have it kind of serviceable, and we'll see what we've got, at least with the metal bits. I think everything else will polish up quite nicely, but we'll see where we are with the metal. So, and welcome back. You can see in front of you we have piled up that Toothbrush Duofold, and we're ready to put it back together. So let's go ahead and do that, and I'll just show a little bit how nicely everything seemed to polish up. There's the barrel, and I don't know if I showed the imprint before. Let me get if there it is. I feel it in there somewhere. I think it came out quite nicely, and you can kind of see the Parker Duofold. Looks like we had a crisp imprint on this, and everything turned out really well. There's that. Here's the cap, and we look like the band also shined up really well. All that was just some schmutz on it, so I don't see anything particularly lost. And everything else we can see on the pen, I think. But let me show this guy. So this Duofold clip did have a little bit of pitting, if I can get it focused. Yeah, a little bit of an issue down here near the tip, but most everything came off, and we're just left with a little bit of pitting, which in the grand scheme of things, not terrible. I mean, considering how well the rest of it all kind of cleaned up. So let's go ahead and put everything back together as we would, and let's go ahead and put the nib and feed in. We'll grab the nib, feed, section, and a little bit of pushing. Slips right in. Looks like we have a good depth, and we're here, so let's go ahead and show. Maybe. I'll try again once we have the panels put together. I'll have my camera angled differently, so maybe we can see it then. But there's that. We also have a little breather tube in here somewhere, which surprised me. I don't think I've ever seen one. Oh, maybe I should. Can I reach it? Maybe I should put the breather tube in first, because that's such a short piece. I'm just searching for the hole. Maybe not. Hang on. Working for it. Yeah, for this short thing I should have put the breather tube in first. Okay, I'm gonna try to peer over it to see if I can find it. Mostly. Oh, was that it? Maybe? Maybe not. I might have to knock this out just to put this back in. Yeah, let's do it. Let's not hesitate. Let's just do it. Boom, boom, boom. Put that there. I'll use this. And where's my hammer? This is not how I wanted this one to go, but we're going to go there. Okay. There we go. Okay, put that back down. Let's do this. There we go. It's just that easy. I guess it's so short, it really only sticks just outside of the section. So it's not really going to be in the way. There we go. It just barely sticks right there. So it really just, I don't know. I'm not really sure what this is doing all that much, but I guess it gives you that little bit of guaranteed fill. Oh well. I went ahead and did this is a number 18 sack. I pre-cut it. And we'll put our shellac generously on the nipple. And slide that sack on. I'm going to make sure I walk it up to the top. Give it a spin. There we go. And push any little bit into the little space or that crack or the junction, whatever you want to call it. And there we go. There's our sack. Put that there, and I should have, there it is, my talc. Get some up there. We'll do our press and spread. Kind of like this one. It's a little cleaner than a sack of talc. Or, you know. And I can really adjust how much I use on it. So I kind of like this little container. I think I got it from Anderson Pens, like most things I get. Okay. We'll go ahead and put him in to the barrel and find the imprint. I think I tend to want to put the imprint on the bottom, I'm finding. So if you're holding it, all the rubbing that you're doing is going to be on the sides and maybe away from the top. So I think that if I put the imprint on the bottom, it might preserve that a little bit longer from just some daily wear. Let me go ahead and show you the pressure bar. I was able to salvage it. Again, there was corrosion. There's a little bit of pitting on the main plate itself, but overall it cleaned up well. It's got good spring, so we are going to use it. So I'm going to snake it up from the bottom, kind of angle it towards the side and kind of rotate to try to not catch the sack, which feels like that's what I'm doing. There we go. I think I slipped by it. There we go. So it's up there, and we'll see what the pressure does. This did become easier to put in, so I might have to try not to, but maybe put it just a touch of shellac just to make sure that the pressure doesn't really push this section back out. Take my brass button, slide it over the main. There we go. Push and I hear it. And that brass button shined up really well. There we go. Blind cap, and we'll do the cap itself. So I'm going to put this clip on, the jewel, get it to catch, start threading it down. I gotta grab the whole thing and turn. I'm going to try and align it somewhere between those two and kind of breather holes around the cap, and how much I can get a grip. But it's tightened down, and it kind of got it there, but it's going to be easily taken off. So I might take it and see if I can press it into my eraser anymore to get it any tighter locked in, but that's pretty good overall. Am I zoomed out? Yeah. So that is it. That is the pen. So I'll take it for one last shine, get all my fingerprints off it, one last little buff, and we'll write with it, see how it fills once that shellac is set. But this guy turned out really well. So let's come back in a couple hours anyway, and we'll see how it does. Alright, welcome back, and everything's polished up, and I did a little bit of reading, just something fairly quick on Vacuumania, a good resource for Parker pens, and have it all shined up, ready to show off. Let's go ahead and give it a twirl. I think everything turned out really well. I'll kind of zoom in to see any little detail, but I think, you know, the celluloid took the polish really well. This trim, which is nickel plated, shined up once I got the buff on it. I mean, outside of a little bit of pitting here, I think the whole thing stands up. And even down here, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, maybe, but when I get the Duofold, I was kind of just looking over it with the loop, it looks like there's an inner core of the pattern, and then there's a layer of clear celluloid over top. And so when you look, it looks like there's a shadow. It has a little bit of a 3D depth to it. I mean, more than just this little chatoyance you get with the celluloid itself. It's kind of a cool little feature. I like looking up close. And almost my favorite part, just because they shine the button. Yeah. Let's go ahead and show what's under the hood. And you might not be able to see it, but it just says Parker pen. Very simple nib. Looks like this is going to be a nice fine line. Yeah. So, did a little reading. Let me go ahead and ink this guy up, and we can chat a little bit about the geometric, the Duofold geometric, what this is called. The Toothbrush is more of a secondary name to it. The people are just kind of called it over time. But this is the geometric, and let's go ahead and dip it and see how well it fills. Okay, see if we can get the bubbles. Maybe a little something, but yeah, it definitely filled. There's some bubbles. I'll push it 3 times to make use of that breather tube, which I'll talk about in a second. There we go, wipe you down. Alright. Alright, here we go. So, picked up. And I'm just using some black ink, and this some Pelican black ink. So this is the, okay, there we go. There you go. Parker Duofold Geometric. I'll zoom in a little bit, but I'll show you the writing in a second. So this is interesting. Apparently the interesting history was that this is a remarketing attempt for the Duofold line. Like the Vacuumatics had pretty much taken over, and the old kind of big red, the black, and all the other kind of just chunky Duofolds, classic Duofolds, had kind of like waned in the market big time. So the vacs and the new filling systems were all the rage. And so this rebranding was about 1938, and this was kind of supposed to be an economy model, right? You had the name, so it's a cheaper pen, but a classic name that implied probably some value and some durability, but by no means. These geometrics were aimed at a cheaper price point, a little more cheaply made, Again, going back to a simpler button filling mechanism. So that was the goal. And so this is the economy model. This is the geometric, also known as the toothbrush in later years. Apparently it came in just a few colors. It came in brown, green, gray, and black. And as you can imagine, black didn't have any shapes on it. It was just black. But it was the button filler and the general shape with that Duofold, like the more streamlined clip that kind of kept it in the Duofold line. So I can tell you that this is supposed to be a gray model, because this one had gold trim, so did that one, and so did the black. So the gray did the reverse trim options and gave you this nickel plated trim. So that's what this is. So I guess if I were to have guessed, I said maybe this was a yellow or maybe a green, but I think this is like a light gray celluloid that has probably oxidized and changed over time. So just based on the trim, this is supposed to be gray. So there you go. I think in the cap you can see, I guess it depends on the light you get it in, but now I can't even say that. But I was going to see maybe you could see the grayish a little bit more in the cap than the barrel, but I don't know. So we'll call this gray, maybe a light gray over time. And here's the cool part. So I think with the Vacuumatics, you know, you had the ink view capacity. Oops. Capacity. And so they went ahead and put the ink view window on this one. This one's more of a darker amber, so a little bit harder to see through. But the ink view had come with the Parkette. And so they kind of transfer that to this line. And the goofy thing that I saw was, with the Vacuumatics having that long breather tube, or the breather tube that allowed you to pump, and fill better than you could with the sack, they wanted to show that maybe this is a higher tier pen, so they put a little sliver of a breather tube, and I actually saw that maybe it was actually going to just be a solid rod, so that when you look through here, it's like, oh, breather tube, fancy, it's going to fill really well. And so that's why that's there. That's why it's so short, so pathetically useless. It was just a visual gimmick to make people think this is a higher quality pen than it was. It sold okay apparently, but it was out by about 1940, and that's when they discontinued the line. And I think the Parker Challenger and the Deluxe Challenger also kind of fell away right around 1940. And on this barrel, I'm not going to give it the headache of zooming in, but this has a date code of a 0 with 2 dots. So this was a tail end, like middle of 1940, that this particular pen was made. So this is probably one of the last few, or last like production batches before it went kaput. And what I say, and the Vacuumatic page, it kind of backed up the fact that these were not as well made pens, so they do tend to break and do not stand up as well over time. And for me to grab this one and to have it in such good condition, I think is a little bit lucky on my part. I have another one, and I actually just pulled it out to look at it, and it's the exact same color, same trim. It's a little bit more beat up, but the clip looks a little bit better. And sadly, on the other one I have, the nib kind of broke right there, so it kind of like broke right off the feed, so I'll have to find a replacement nib for it. But otherwise, it looks the same, and I'm hopeful to kind of get it looking just as good as this one, because this one looks fantastic. So I'm really lucky to have found this. But since I have two, I'm not going to keep both. This one will probably go to my eBay page and to see, you know, if I can give this one a new home. But let me go ahead and write the sentence and just tell you how this feels. As you can tell, it's going to be a fine line. Zoom in a little bit, and we'll just go with that. That was me. I picked it up from the paper. So yeah, definitely a fine line. And I checked under the loop, it looks well aligned, so there's just a little bit of pen on paper feel. So not scratchy, but just gives you a little bit of like nice feedback, and maybe you can hear it. But it slides on the paper. It's actually kind of fun to write with, so let's see if it has any spring. Oh, actually, let's do the wetness test. Yeah, decently wet with the Pelikan ink, so definitely lays down some ink, so I'm sure it's going to be a fast writer, or at least able to keep up with some fast writing, as indeed it does. And let's go ahead and see if I can squeeze a little bit of variability out of it. So low pressure, putting some on. Actually, look at that. That gives you a little bit of springiness. Yeah, that's got a little bit of fun flexibility to it, and that was not too much pressure, so I'd call this a nice springy nib. And it goes right back to writing, so this is actually really nice. Let's move up in this space a little bit and see if we do the reverse writing. Now, it kind of disappears, it gets so fine and it's not really flowing for it, so I would not call this one a reverse writer, although it is pretty smooth. It's not digging in, it's just not built really for it. Turn it back over, picks right up. So as a writer, this actually feels really good. I like this one a lot. Let me see if I can quickly grab the ruler and we'll at least get some sizes. So if I cap it, there we go. From the tip of the jewel, if I count that, it's just over 5 inches. I'd call it 5 1/16 for capped. And then uncapped from nib tip to the bottom of the blind cap, we're looking right around 4 and right at 5/8, 4 and 5/8. So 5 and 1/16 uncapped equals, what I say, 4 and 5/8, which actually fits rather comfortably in the hand. So this is actually, for me, again, average 5'9". This feels pretty good. The section is decently big. I don't feel that's necessarily a short section, and so I've got plenty of room for my finger to sit there, and it's got the flare at the top to kind of let me not slide down, so that actually feels pretty good. And there's some threads, of course, in the back. I feel them. They do feel like they're quality threads. They feel deep, but they're not sharp. So if I'm touching it, I'm not bothered so much by it, but I have a comfortable space to hold it. And does it post? I kind of don't want to post too hard, but it posts comfortably. And celluloid, it doesn't really add much to the back, so you could, but I don't think most people would have to, and that's good. It's going to be good for the lip, because I feel like this is fairly thin out here, because the whole thing is pretty lightweight. So yeah, overall, I'm thinking this is a good pen. And let's see if we can show you what that breather tube did or didn't do, because I think I pressed it 2 or 3 times. Let's go ahead and do a little dump. Let's see what we get. I'll tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and fill it, just since I've been writing. Give another couple presses. Okay, and let's see if you can see, get some white behind it. There we go. Steady, and that's pretty good. That's one press. Yeah, it kind of fills and empties with one little press of the button. Let's do that again. That's actually a pretty good fill. I felt like it filled more with the button, so maybe that breather tube is doing a little bit for us. Yeah, I got a stream on that one. So yeah, I think as an economy writer, this would have been a great deal. I mean, you get a gold nib, maybe a little bit thinner, not as good quality, because, you know, my other one has a broken nib on it. You got a cool design, you get a comfortably sized pen, You get gold trim, at least on the other options, and this nickel is nothing to laugh at. And what else? And though it's a button filler, it seems like it's a decent fill. And with a fine line, you'll probably get a good amount of writing out of it. And overall, I'd say it's a win, especially now as a collector, somebody who wants it. I think these things go for a pretty penny on eBay, because considering it was only made for about 2 years, 38 to 1940, they don't always stand up. Maybe some cracks, maybe some plating loss. I'm not sure what all the issues would be, but I know from the one I've had in the past, just getting a section off cracked the thing like crazy. So maybe just a thinner, cheaper celluloid, but from what I'm looking at here, this looks good. I like this a lot, and I would say solid collectible pen, good enough for just a daily writer if you want to use it. But given the scarcity and maybe some, fragility over time, use it around home. Don't go taking this guy out too much, but use it around home. And I think it's great. So I'll clean this guy up. I'll get him up on the eBay eventually. And so maybe if you're looking around in the next few weeks or month or so, you'll see him and maybe be able to jump at that one. But yeah, and I'll see what my next project is. I'm still finishing up my Hooded Nib series, and maybe by the time this airs, that one will be finished. But this is just an interlude for me to do a fun pen, and so I'll continue to do a few fun pens from time to time until I just kind of get into the routine of, look at this awesome example, let's clean it up, let's talk about it, and show things off. So until next time,